question of trust. It's not as if whether they have the right or not. No, if within the same international community that Iran belongs, you know, the rights of Iran is limited by by the fact that it cannot be trusted to have such, which might likely be inimical to her neighbors, particularly Israel.
Well, but Israel has never categorically said that it doesn't have nuclear weapons. So if nobody is questioning Israel about its nuclear capability, why question Iran? Isn't it double standards?
Well, in international relations itself, there is so much of double standard, or what we call is permanent interest that exists. We don't have permanent enmity or permanent friendship. Now, Israel, we know, has nuclear power, but of course, it was Iran who actually has come out openly to canvass for the annihilation of Israel. Okay. And so, if there is any step or process towards acquiring something that will enable her to eliminate her neighbor, of course, the world should be, the world should be apprehensive, and that's exactly what is happening now. Not necessarily whether Iran has the right or not, because, like I said earlier on, the countries that are trying to dissuade Iran from acquiring also have. Okay. But it depends on the leadership of the country, okay, and the antecedent, what people know they are capable of doing. So this is just the problem. It's not as if Iran does not have the right like any other person. But what will a nuclear power Iran do with that nuclear? Okay. That is the problem.
Well, you've talked about leadership now. I know that when the former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was there, he was very tough talking, and all talks with the West collapsed. But with the new president, Hassan Rouhani, people perceive that he's warming up to the West. Now, does this supposed to warming up hold any water? You know, especially considering the fact that he still has a supreme leader, that's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Yeah, I think the West needs something like a cautious optimism here, because they should not be in a hurry to embrace Iran, because like Benjamin Netanyahu observed, although speaking from his own perspective as a rival, you know, to Iran, but then, like, if we say we want to quickly embrace Iran, what about what Iran is saying right now? It's just playing to the gallery, because Iran have been isolated from international politics for a long time, and coupled with sanctions, is biting hard on Iran. Iran is looking for every avenue to really get itself extricated from this problem, economic and social anathema. So every attempt to do that, Iranian leaders will be looking for that now, but that does not really mean that they will completely hands off their nuclear enrichment. So the world has to be cautious in their, maybe, bid to welcome Iran. It's dicey, because question of trust again, who can trust the new leader? Because the Ayatollah Khomeini is still there as a leader.
Exactly. I was just going to ask you that even if the president actually decides to warm up, as it's reported, just how much chance does he have with Ayatollah still at the background?
That is the problem, because we do know the policy has not radically changed. The policy has not radically changed. The policy has not radically changed, so it would be too hasty for the international community to embrace Iran, and that is the caution that Israel is sounding to the rest of the world, particularly America. That America, you have to be very careful in embracing Iran, because if Iran says, okay, we are discontinuing, let the IAEA go and really certify that these people have actually discontinued. Or again, let it be that the aspect that Iran is developing is the one for electricity generation, and there is no component of military threat in it. Because in security parlance, when you look at a threat, for instance, who is a threat? That person must have the capability of carrying out that threat. The threat is not really worth it until you see that threat and the person who is making the threat having the capability of actually doing it. We see that Iran has the capability.
Really?
Yeah, it has. It has the capability if Iran is allowed to develop it, of course.
So do you believe that Iran is actually trying to develop a nuclear bomb?
Nothing stopping them from developing it. They have the right, like you and I have observed, they have the right to develop it. okay? But it's now a question of which one do we promote more? What is our priority now? Is it to get international community relax the sanction that is hanging on us, or we continue and remain in international isolation? So they have to balance the two now. And again, one thing that that one is puzzled about is because there is what the Iranians have been saying all this while, that they are developing it for domestic purpose. And now, if they have now agreed to sign the agreement, a Geneva agreement, for instance, if they sign it, which is going to be on the basis for relaxing the sanction now. So if they agree, does it now mean that Iran will cease to develop something they know is going to be used for domestic purpose? Don't they need that domestic, don't they need it to develop their domestic utility anymore? So that brings us to the question of trust again, whether the story of developing it for domestic purpose was just a cover story, just to fool international community. Maybe they have other ulterior motive after all. Because otherwise, you will not agree to relax the process of production if it is actually is for domestic development. But
like you said, they've been put in a very tight corner. I mean, they might need it for domestic purposes, but their economy is being crippled by the sanctions that have been placed on them.
But even that is
it not a lose-lose situation?
It might be. That's what I'm saying. If they need it actually for domestic purpose or to generate electricity, and that will boost their economy. And if they treat that for international relaxation of sanctions, so which one will pay them more? They have to balance the two. Okay, if the generation of uranium is for domestic purpose, which will boost the economy, okay, and also they are giving that up now because of the relaxation of sanction. So which one will now pay them more? I think that is a matter for the government to decide where do we go from here. If actually they are developing for domestic purposes, they have to weigh it. Which one will pay us more? If we develop it, it will develop our economy. So if we stop it, okay, there will be a law in the development of the economy, but international sanction will be lifted. So which one do they do? Except if there is in between these two extremes, there is something we don't know that Iranian government knows. And that is maybe what the international community does not want to take chances.
Well, I've asked you this before. So based on what you've said, do you see any form of outside intervention to persuade Iran, to toe the line of the P5+1 countries?
To persuade Iran, what benefit would that be to them? The fact is that Iran is a sovereign country. Iran has the right, like every other person, to do what he's doing now. It's just because the past regime has been very, very pugilistic, and that is what the world is concerned about. Leaving this kind of power in the hand of Iran, especially the one headed by Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, will use it negatively. Now, the new man, Hassan Rouhani, okay, some people see him as a moderate, but some people still see him as somebody who cannot be trusted. I think this guy will portray him as a wolf in sheep clothing. Netanyahu. So in this situation, we do not know the man yet. So it would be too early to entrust this kind of thing into his hand and to just relax, thinking that, okay, because he has signed, no cause for alarm anymore. I think there is still need for cautious optimism.
Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're still watching Diplomatic Channel, and we're moving on to Afghanistan, where elders at a Grand Assembly in Kabul have called for a security deal with the U.S. to be signed this year. The pact allows thousands of U.S. troops to remain in Afghanistan once combat operations end in 2014. About 2,500 tribal elders and political leaders from all around Afghanistan gathered in the capital Kabul for a lawyer jiga or Grand Council to debate whether to allow U.S. troops to stay after the 2014 withdrawal of foreign forces. Without an accord on the so-called bilateral security agreement, the United States says it could pull out all its troops at the end of 2014 and leave Afghan forces to fight the Taliban insurgency on their own. In a statement certain to irritate the United States, which is kin